Hey everybody, I am here. As you can tell, it's a change of scenery. I'm actually at my boyfriend Davin's house and for a couple of days, so I didn't have any chance of doing this at my own apartment. So I'm going to be doing it here instead. Um, so I'm going to be reading today from um, Shadowed Summer and the September Sisters, and I'm doing September Sisters right now. And you don't really need to know much past what the summary says, although just to set up the scene, I'm starting with chapter 3, and Abby and her father are at the television station to put out a reward for Becky's, uh, for anybody who can help find Becky. Okay? So I'm just going to read a little section. Chapter 3. Becky's hair was straight, dirty blonde, and just past her shoulders. She had green eyes and pinkish sunburned skin in the summer. She had dimples. She had some freckles on her nose. She had a 2-inch scar just above her right elbow from the time she fell off her bike. She was 4 feet 8 inches tall, and she weighed 73 pounds. She was 10 years old. These were the things my parents told the police, the things my father said on the local news when he went on to make a plea for her safe return and to offer the reward. There were other things that we didn't say. Becky's voice was high-pitched and scratchy, just like my grandmother's. Becky liked oranges but hated orange juice. Becky wanted to be an actress or a horse trainer when she grew up. Becky favored my mother in every way, the way she looked, the way she gestured even. She hardly ever cried, even when she got upset. Instead, her face turned bright red, and she scrunched it up real tight. When she smiled really wide, her forehead crinkled. When she did something spiteful, she got this mischievous half-grin on her face. Sometimes after she disappeared, I had imagined Becky as a superhero, Sticky Fingers Malone. I remembered this time when we all went ice skating and she couldn't stand up on her own 2 feet for more than a few seconds. She kept grabbing onto my shirt and pulling me down with her. "Stop it, you little baby," I said to her, and then defiantly she held her head up high and tried to skate after me, but it was no use. She kept falling. I laughed at her then, even after she caught her balance, even after she'd skated once around the rink by herself. She may have been bruised and broken, but she kept on going until she could do it. That was Becky. I, on the other hand, would have given up. I understood that there were some things I was never going to be good at, so I stopped trying at them almost right away. At the TV station, I thought about all those other things, while my father mechanically recounted what Harry Baker called the vital stats. I wondered if my father remembered these things, if he was thinking of Becky as more than her 5th-grade school picture, which he held up for the camera and which was also painted on posters in our neighborhood and the local shop and save, and I'd heard Harry Baker say would soon be on milk cartons. It is sometimes hard for me to think of her any other way, and I make myself remember the last night in the pool. Becky's face as she stole the inner tube from me, just so she is something else besides that school picture. The TV station was boring, nothing like what Becky or I would have hoped. I got to sit in a chair back behind the cameras, so I was facing the anchor woman and my father, who sat behind the news desk. Someone who seemed semi-in charge gave me a cup of coffee, something I had never been allowed to have before. Before I drank it, I looked to my father to see if he was disapproving, but he didn't notice. He was talking animatedly to the anchor woman, straightening his tie. I took a sip and I was surprised by how bitter and awful it tasted, but I kept drinking it, and I nodded at the guy who gave it to me, as if to say thanks. I drink this stuff all the time. No biggie. But he wasn't paying attention to me anymore. He'd already stopped noticing me, forgotten I was there. I drank the whole cup and then almost immediately I had to pee. My father was busy talking to the anchor woman, so I asked the guy who'd given me the coffee where the bathroom was. He pointed down the hall and held his finger to his lips. They were about to go live. After I peed, I stood in the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. I always thought that Becky was prettier than me. My hair is a mousy brown and has a frizzy sort of curl to it that never quite straightens, even when my mother used her straightening iron. But it doesn't curl right either, so it's just this useless frizzy mop. My skin is darker than Becky's, and I don't have any freckles. My eyes are a dull sort of brown. I smiled at myself in the mirror and pinched my cheeks, trying to give them some color. I ran my fingers through my hair to try to straighten it, but it was no use. I left the bathroom and my father was standing right there. He grabbed me so fiercely that it frightened me. Jesus, Abe, don't wander off like that. I shook him off. I had to pee. I knew what he thought, that I had disappeared too. I felt oddly satisfied that I had frightened him in that way, that for a minute he'd been worried about me. And that's all I'm going to do today from that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and look below for the Shadowed Summer excerpt. Bye.